Jose Bowen. Welcome to my website. So what I'm going to try to do here is give you a little introduction to some of the ideas, the different workshops, and how the website is set up. The basic idea is that technology is going to be disruptive to higher ed. It's coming. But my thesis is that the best use of technology is usually outside of the classroom. Most of us have classrooms. We're used to classrooms. We like classrooms. We've also invested in them. They cost money. So they're more expensive than the online stuff. So I don't think for most of us the right thing to do is, oh, we've got to get into the online world. That's not what's going to happen. What we need to do is to make what happens in our classrooms more valuable and make the benefit larger because it costs more. So I think there's a place for technology in higher education, but most of that place is going to be outside the classroom, helping students prepare for the faculty-student interaction that goes on in the classroom. That's where the real value is, and my emphasis here is on value. My other emphasis is on practical suggestions. We're not all going to change overnight. We're good at what we do. This disruption is coming, but it's not realistic to say, okay, everybody totally become an online teacher, redo everything that you do. So the emphasis here is on the small things we can do, the easy things. Here, for example, is an easy tip. Email, right? Use email for announcements. Save a couple of minutes of class and use email maybe also to answer questions at the end of class. If it only buys you 5 or even 10 minutes in every class, that's a couple of class sessions a semester that you now have for further discussion. Think about the first thing that happens when somebody says, hey, can you do a meeting next Tuesday? But the first thing I say is, I don't know, send me an email, right? I want to have confirmation. I want to have it. I don't read it. Send it to me in email. So the same thing is true for your students. If the midterm is changed next week or there's an extra chapter to read, send them an email. That's not worth class time. Class time is too valuable for announcements. And the same is true, again, like I said, for answering questions. If somebody has a question that you don't have the answer to right away, say, I'll think about it. Let me send you an answer on email. And let students, in fact, instead of having the one student who raises his or her hand and says, I have a question, maybe ask every student, take out an index card and write down one question about today's class. Then collect the cards and then write some answers and put them online. That makes everybody go through the process of thinking about the question, but it also generates class time for the next class. So to me, that's an example of a practical small suggestion. It's really not very high tech at all. I mean, it's using email. And yes, you could do it on Facebook, you could do it on Twitter. And you'll find out how to do both of those things on this website. But to me, the essential characteristic is that how do we create more value in the classroom, and how do we demonstrate that? How do we use technology to maybe push the exams before every class? Another of my suggestions, an exam before every single class. Do it online, short. Yes, students can cheat, if you want to call that, but I don't think using the internet is cheating anymore, because the world is open book. The world is open internet. So how can you build that into the process so students are learning things on the internet and then coming into class where the real learning happens? So the test isn't about what students have learned yet. It's about what they've explored on the internet so they're prepared for what happens in class. So that's the basic idea. So on this website, you'll also find information about my different talks. I do 4 workshops and a keynote. There's also a video that relates to the keynote. The keynote is really about the impulse. What is happening in higher education? What are the things that you've got to be prepared for? It's really the why. Why is this going to be so transformative? Then there are 4 workshops on the how. How do you respond? How do you prepare? And again, the emphasis is on the practical suggestion and also on how faculty and administrators can work together. What are some of the things that administrators have to do to support faculty through what's going to be a difficult transformation? So the first of these workshops has nothing to do with technology. It's about learning outcomes and rubrics. Because technology is only as good as the course and design into which it's fitted. So if you don't know what you want to accomplish, all the technology in the world isn't going to help. What do you want your students to know at the end of your semester? You've got to start with that. Then you can ask the question, will technology help or will it hurt? How could I use technology to accomplish my goals? But you start with writing good learning outcomes and thinking about that. That's the first one. Workshop B is about e-communication. So it is about Twitter and about Facebook and about things you can do with email. It's also about Skype and virtual office hours. What else can you do with Skype? You can have visiting lectures come in. You can talk to your students when you're out of the state or out of the country. But mostly it's about thinking about how you communicate with students, which channels you use, because there are a lot more channels now and the time frame is very different. So how do you use social media to really engage your students so that when they're not in the classroom, they're still thinking about the issues that you want them to think about, or they're still preparing? Workshop C is called Easy Technology for Better Preparation. And the key here is that a lot of things you can do with technology are about preparing students for what happens in class. The analogy I use is that of a meeting, right? You've been to those meetings when you think, couldn't you have sent me this memo in advance? Do you really have to stand there and read your PowerPoint or read your memo? That's a wasting of my time. We've got all this brain power in the room. What we want to do is interact and discuss and do something. So the same thing works for class. You can probably push a lot of content out to students before they come to class. By giving students an exam before every class, you then ensure that your students are prepared. So what are some of the easy things that you can do? And again, I probably wouldn't redesign your whole semester at once. Take one class, take your lecture, turn it into a podcast, send it to students, give them an exam, and then now you have a whole hour to rethink what you're going to do with your students. That's work. So it's easy things that you can do to have better prepared students. Then workshop D is the final stage, which is now that you have students who are better prepared in class, what are you going to do in class? What else can you do besides lecture and talk? So when you think about course design is a series of activities. What do you do first? Do you do the reading first? Do you listen to the lecture first? Do you come to class first? Right, that's the typical model. Students come to class unprepared. We give them first exposure. So now that we've pushed first exposure to students, now it happens in class. And also, we've had this idea of the inverted or flipped classroom for a while, but technology expands the possibilities for sequence because it means I can give students the content in any order I want. I can say, no, before you come to class, watch the lecture. Or before you come to class, read this, watch the video. I can rethink about sequence. So workshop D is about course design and about rethinking sequence and basically what you want to do where. Where does the learning happen? In the traditional class, we do first contact in the classroom, but we push the learning out on the students. We'll study that. You'll learn that on your own. But with technology, we can invert that. We can flip that and say, we're going to actually do our learning. We're going to do our problem set in the classroom. And the chalk and talk will happen online with the Khan Academy, or not even with me, maybe. So those are the 4 workshops that I offer. That's the keynote that I offer. And if you go to the Borrow page, you can find more information about all of the workshops, but also lots and lots of resources. Where can I go to find podcasts or other content? Where can I go to find out about new types of course design? Where can I go to find out about things I can do to improve writing in my classroom? Write today. Easy things. So that's how the workshop is, the website is set up, the 4 workshops. I hope that gives you a nice overview of what I'm trying to do. Thanks very much for listening.